I want to move to a question which I will pose to Alan and Oliver. And the question is, do you get a sense of, I mean, obviously the answer is obvious from rough estimates, but can you put a little bit of something more concrete about what is COVID doing to poverty levels? Now we're going from health and emergency response to trying to figure out how we restart economies and we bring people the necessary means to earn a living. So, Alan, what do you think what scale of challenge this is going to be on the poverty levels? If you look at the index that the World Bank does, where do you think it's going to end up?
Yeah, Joseph, I don't have specific numbers on this, but I think it's very clear it's going to have quite a substantial impact, because we're talking about contractions in a number of economies, which could be on the order of several percentage points. And I mean, if you think about that and you think about population growth will be continuing slowly, but nevertheless in the interval, that means that in about 5 years' time, we will be very lucky to be back where we are today, even with the recovery. So yes, it is going to have an effect. And, you know, when we talk about the number of people in poverty in a country, in most countries, the distribution of income is quite highly peaked around the poverty line, most poor people. So even quite a small shift downwards in the distribution of income will boost the number of people in poverty by quite a substantial amount. And we can also see the unemployment. And I think one of my concerns is whether the loss of jobs, I mean, I'd be looking at South Africa, for example, and there we see a very substantial impact on top of an existing situation that was very problematic. And how long will it take for those jobs to come back? And what will they look like? So the distributional implications of this are also pretty serious.
Okay. Oliver, do you have anything to add, or can I move to the next question?
Yes, I think first for us, I think in terms of economic, reduction or contracting, we were talking about 2.7% in the worst scenario. And you can imagine if you have a reduction of the GDP about 2.7% overall, how that is going to affect the households in countries. So we're seeing already at the moment, with all the lockdowns that are taking place, a lot of people get more into poverty. And I think that over time, that's probably what we're going to be seeing, that a lot more people are going to be losing jobs, a lot more people will have nothing to put on the table. And therefore it means that much more rethink is also be required around in that area. So there is certainly job losses that is going to be seen. We'll be seeing much more people coming in. Malnutrition levels are likely to go up because people are not having anything to eat. Just the other day, we're hearing of a story in Nairobi where a woman had to cook stones just to pretend, show to her children that she was cooking something. Well, she had nothing to do to give the children. She was apparently, going around washing, clothes from house to house, trying to earn income. But then, she could not do that anymore because they could not allow her to come into the house. And then she had nothing to put on the table. So, one day she just decided she was going to cook stones just, to pretend that she was cooking something and with the hope that children were actually going to go to sleep. And that's really unfortunate. And the scale of things is actually much worse in some of the countries where we are seeing a lot of job losses. Here in Ethiopia, for instance, when the state of emergency was put in place, people stayed home for a few days. After a few days, they went back to the street because they needed to look for food. And we're seeing that social distancing doesn't work where poverty levels are high.
Right. Okay. Excellent. So,
Joseph, I just wanted to quickly jump in and say there is, from the Chief Economist's Office in the World Bank's Africa region, Africa's Pulse. So one of my colleagues will try to put in the chat function the link to that. There's an April edition, and I believe that comes out every few months.
Okay, great. So we'll make sure people have access to that. Now, obviously, we can continue talking about the impact across the board, but I think I want to switch gears into the response, sort of what is available. And the response is going to be